Cherry Shellharbour.
Welcome to Saturday League Kickoff.
Yeah, welcome to Saturday League Kickoff, Sats and Webby, for another weekend of rugby league. And what a weekend it is, and leading into Origin number 2, live from Perth as well. Well, Webby, he's struck down with COVID, so he'd be at home watching at the moment with his little staffy, Stevie Nicks. So shout out to you, Webby. Hope you're feeling better. I think both Buzz and Webby have got COVID.
There you go. Did they do their podcast together? Maybe they gave it to
They
each other.
did it remotely.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah. They look worse for wear as well, I've got to say. Hey, Adrian Pazanko jumping in again. How are you, AP?
Good, mate. I think we've muffed our lines. I'm wearing maroon and you're wearing blue.
Well, mine's not blue. Mine's navy.
Okay.
So it's not sky blue, which is okay.
Well, at least we're picking and sticking on this show. I get another run this year, unlike the Maroons. So, anyway, we'll talk about that this afternoon, won't we?
Yeah, throwing hand grenades already. Hey, welcome back to our Fox League viewers as well. 2-hour show, and also our listeners right across the SEN network. So much to talk about. And what we do love about Saturday League Kickoff is your interaction, the fans. So make sure you call us. 1300 01 1170 is the number. But if you want to text us also, 0457 736 736. Now, if you're listening via Sport Nation in New Zealand, 8833 is the text number as well. Got a lot of texts coming in already. Steve says, pumped for a big show, fellas. Queenslander flogs and should be perfectly legal to punch a Queenslander in the mouth during Origin week.
Keep them coming, Steve.
Well, I think we feel the same way, Steve. Plenty to get to. We're going to chat with Kieran Foran. Foz is going to join us very, very soon because it was a massive win by the Gold Coast Titans last night. Manly fans, what are you thinking? Again, send us a text on that text line because they were thoroughly disappointing last night. We're going to dissect that game with Kieran Foran as well and have our own views around Manly's performance. And also all things Origin. There's been a lot of talk around both camps this week, some with the non-selections of Daly Cherry-Evans. Do you agree or disagree? The inclusion of Tommy Dearden, which I love, but also the injury to Mitchell Moses, Jerome Luai coming in. Does it make them a weaker side? Does it make them a stronger side? And also Queensland, well, they've got a new captain. But on Origin, he's a former Illawarra Steel great as well, and he played 9 Origins for New South Wales, 3 winning series as well. Shaun Timmins is going to join us to dissect that New South Wales side as well, and also we'll preview the weekend's matches. Thursday night's game as well, good win by the Cronulla Sharks. I thought, well, they're tough. They found a way to win, which is always a good sign when you're sort of rocks or diamonds at this time of season, AP.
Yeah, problem for the Dragons too is they were in a winning position, had a big lead, and not for the first time this season, they let it slip. So their game management at the back end of games is something they really need to have a look at.
When you look at game management, the first people you look at are your halves. They're the ones who've got to be able to control the tempo of the game.
Well, I thought it was interesting in that Kyle Flanagan on several occasions on the last, they kept running the football. Like when they were in a good ball position and in a position to put in a good kick, he just wasn't there for him, was he?
Yeah, exactly. Like we do each and every Saturday, let's get to our Saturday Spotlight. Okay,
The Spotlight.
You are first off the bench, AP. What's your Spotlight?
Treachery is alive and well in rugby league. So my one is Wayne Bennett, and he is the master manipulator in the NRL. So the whole plan was for Campbell Graham to be the New South Wales 18th man, and Wayne said, no, he's no good. He's had back spasms or whatever else. So Campbell Graham has been pulled out of that role. Apparently he's on an extended bench for South Sydney. Is a chance if he gets through captain's run
Is it
of
captain's
playing
run? Is it like a captain's run?
Captain's run
Yeah.
or a fitness test. He could well be playing against Canterbury. So who takes his place for It's actually Matt Burden, who would have been playing for Canterbury. He's now 18th man, which the Bulldogs are blowing up about.
It's nothing for the media to create a headline, is it?
Exactly.
So,
He's the perennial 18th man.
Yeah.
And it means that the Bulldogs can't use him. So one, he's got an inclusion of one of his best players potentially if he gets through captain's run. He's taken out one of the best players in the opposition. And there was even talk at one stage that Keon Kalamatangi could have been 18th man, and yet he's winkled him away and he's going to be available for him. So I reckon that's the best.
that's outstanding.
Yeah.
Well, he's been around the block so many times, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I want to know whether Wayne's going to pay Campbell Graham his $30,000.
I can assure you it won't be coming out of Wayne Bennett's pocket.
Hey, my Saturday spotlight is a Queensland. is a Queensland focus, is the 16th Queensland captain, Cam Munster. I absolutely love this. I just think this is the next piece in the puzzle when it comes to Cam Munster's career, when it comes to his legacy as well. And I'm going to say this. This could have the effect on Cam Munster. And I don't know whether Billy's deliberately done this to try and get something extra out of Cam, but I think this is the final piece that says that we have got a new king on the horizon. This could be a performance by Cam Munster where he will single-handedly dismantle the New South Wales side in Perth.
I found it fascinating that early in the week, when he got the call and got the news, he was like, he thought they were calling to say, you're dropped. Because he didn't have a great game in game one.
No, he had a lot of friends with him.
Yeah, but he is just that guy that can do anything. He's like the original king.
Yes.
There's nothing on. You give him the ball and something happens.
Yeah, exactly. And also, thanks to our good friends at Tempo, we're going to be asking Kieran Foran who would have had a good night's sleep from his side last night. So make sure you give us a call. 1300 01 1170 is the number, or send us a text 0457 736 736. Well, let's get to our very special guest. He's on the line. A great win. It's a second win at home for the Gold Coast Titans. 28 points to 8 against his old side, the Sea Eagles. Kieran Foran's on the line. How are you, Foz?
Yeah, going well, thanks, guys.
So I know that you always pull up sore after a game, but you're not as sore when you pull up after a win, but even more so against when you're playing some of your really good mates in rugby league. So how's the body this morning, Foz?
Yeah, I'm pretty sore this morning, Sats, but happy. I've got a smile on my face, and that was the big thing we spoke about through the week. It's been a really tough couple of months for us, and we haven't performed to our potential in the way we would have liked. But we knew we just had to claw our way to a victory, just to get on the board and get some confidence there. And mate, super proud of the effort last night. I just thought the way in which we hung in there, especially in the second half, was awesome.
Well, you didn't just grind your way to a win. You blew them off the park, Foz. It did look great at the start with that early try to Ruben Garrett, but it looked like it was a different game plan last night. You played a lot more expansive, and didn't matter what part of the field it was. Early in the tackle count, you were getting 2 and 3 passes together. Was that something you identified when looking at Manly throughout the week?
It sure was, mate. We spoke about that. The coaches got to us throughout the week and came up with a really, I guess, we wanted to move the ball. That was our attack plan with Manly. We noticed that they were really compressed in yardage. They defend quite tight. And, we felt with our speed and the way in which, we shift the footy that we could make easy yards on them, especially early in sets. So it's always nice when you practice something and you train for it, and then, you're able to execute it. So that was pleasing in the first half.
Foz, I know it's been a while since you played at Manly, but what are the emotions, I guess, for yourself and for Des coming up against some of your good mates, and particularly DCE, and obviously you would have felt for him the fact that he was dropped from the Queensland team as captain and halfback. How was that like for you running out there last night?
Yeah, look, it's always great when you come up against your old mob. I've said a number of times, really great mates with a lot of those boys still, and as you touched on, played the majority of my footy alongside those guys, and especially alongside Daly. So it's always enjoyable when you get to come up against them and shake hands at the end of the game, and especially after a win. But certainly really feeling for Ches at the moment. After the week he's had, my heart just goes out to him, mate. You can just see that he's he's hanging in there, but it's been a tough week for him. But he'll be right. I know he'll dust himself off, and mate, he'll come out better and stronger for it at the end.
Speaking of people who were dropped from the Maroon side, I thought Bo Firma was outstanding. There were a couple of tackles he made. There was that one on Hamole Olakau'atu where he dislodged the ball. And there was another one where Jason Saab made a break, and he was one of the guys that actually rounded him up and made the tackle. Just huge efforts with and without the football from Bo.
Oh, you're spot on, Adrian. I mean, Bo's I reckon he's been one of our best performers all year, and he was really unfortunate to get left out of that Origin side for game 2. But his response was exceptional last night. I mean, he's all heart, he's all effort. You know what you're going to get from him. He's one of our most reliable players, and as you touched on, he never stops working, mate. He came up with a couple of Perla try saves last night for the team.
Hey, Foz, we've got a text on the text line from Azza from DY. It says, can you ask Foz what was a week like after Desi? He gave it to the team last weekend. In the press conference, he says, it's up to the players to change everything. So, obviously the response comes to the win, but throughout the week, could you see the tempo and training rise for whatever reason?
Oh, look, one thing I'll say about Des, he's a true professional and he's experienced. And although he sort of challenged the side at the end of last week's match, and he was bitterly disappointed with the way in which we started that game. He was back to business this week. His mind was fully focused on preparing us for Manly, and he felt that it was a real winnable game for us, this one. Although we were missing a couple of guys to Origin, he just felt like if we started well and we were able to execute the plan that we wanted to go into the game with, that we would be every chance. And the week was pretty straightforward for us. We trained well. We dusted ourselves off after the Broncos loss and got over that disappointment. And then, there was just a good feeling heading into last night's match.
As you talk about Des Hasler, he has been such a massive part of your career, your whole career progression and journey. Has he changed? Has he mellowed? Is he the same Des as he was all those years ago when you were a young guy coming up under him at the Seagulls?
Yeah, look, he's always going to be that same character. I mean, he's intense. He's deliberate about his coaching style. His preparation is absolutely off the Richter. His love and care for his players is still really high. So, look, all those attributes I don't think will ever leave Desi. And he's certainly coached through a number of different eras now. So, being able to evolve and change and relate to the guys is something he's continually working on. And mate, they love him. Even all these years on, I think back to when I was a young bloke coming through at Manly as an 18, 19-year-old, and just how much I looked up to him because he just cared so much about me when I was coming through. And, I watched the way our young guys, Keanu, Kimmy, JC, Tino, Bo, AJ, I could name a list of them. They hang off every word he says. And that's what he's like, He just wants to educate these guys as fast as he can and be as deliberate as he can with what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, well said, Foz. Now, we can talk wax lyrical, I should say, about AJ Brimson and how outstanding he was last night. But I like to focus on the guys that fly under the radar. Chris Randall, now, he was amazing again last night. He's an undersized forward that plays wherever you need him to play. But I keep hearing stories about Chris Randall, Foz. He just seems to be the perfect club man.
He sure is, Randy. He's mate. The boys absolutely love him. You could see that when he scored that try at the end. I mean, the guys just got around him. He's so loved by all the boys, and I think you touched on it there. The reason he's so loved, mate, is he's so selfless in his approach to his footy. I mean, he's filled in. I mean, in his time at the Titans, he's filled in nearly every position that the coach and that the clubs needed him to fill in, and he doesn't shirk it. He buys in wholeheartedly to whatever role he's got to play for the side. And mate, I was really happy for him to get the reward last night, and I said that to him at the end of the game. He's been turning up every week and trying to play as hard as he can, and that was a well-deserved try for him at the end of the game.
Yeah, exactly. Now, as a veteran of the game, Foz, you must love looking back and seeing young players when they're getting ready to make their debuts, because you have young Tukey Simpkins and also Josh Paxton last night playing for the Titans, playing their first game for the Titans. You must enjoy watching the start of their careers.
Yeah, it was great. It's great. It's you just see the excitement on their faces throughout the week and what it means to them and their families. And, it's easy to get caught up in the results of our game and the disappointment. But we actually touched on that through the week, that it would be a really special night to actually win this game for these two guys. They've both worked incredibly hard. Young Tookie, hasn't played in an NRL game for 4 or so years, and that's persistence. And then Josh Patson's 26. So you talk about guys that have I guess, experienced the highs and lows of our game and still being able to hang in there and turn up every day and apply themselves to the best of their capabilities. So, it's great to be able to reward those guys with a win.
Foz, what's next for you? Obviously, we've got the second half of the season to go. There's some hope that you can still do some damage in this competition, but do you hang them up at the end of this season? Do you want to remain involved in rugby league? What are your thoughts about the next stage of your career?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure just yet, Adrian. I mean, I've always said, my rugby league will tell me when it's time to retire. And I guess it's been a tough year to get a read on that for me so far, in the sense that I missed the first 11 weeks. I'm fully focused on coming back and playing the best possible footy that I can play, and get as many wins as I can with the Titans. And look, one thing I'll say is I'm still as hungry as ever. I'm still training as hard as I've ever trained, and I'm pushing myself as hard as I can. And the desire to win and want to win is still there. So I'm not going to rule anything out, mate. Whilst ever I'm playing good footy and I want to compete at this level, then I'll just keep doing it for as long as I can. And eventually, there'll come a time where I can no longer do it and play and compete at the level that I want to be able to do it at. So, look, I'll take each week as it comes at the moment, and sooner or later I'll come to a decision on what next year looks like.
Yeah, nice. Now, you played with plenty of speedsters in your career, Foz. The Snake, Brett Stewart. There's one at Manly at the moment, Jason Saab, who we all think's the fastest, but he took off down that right touchline last night. Lofi Khan-Pereira gave him about 3 metres head start and caught him in about 5 steps. I mean, he's got to be up there with one of the fastest you've played with at least.
I think he's the fastest for sure. Yeah. In what I've seen, one thing I'll say, I've never seen a player as quick over the first 10 or 20. Like his first 10 or 20 metres, I think, would leave anyone in the NRL for dead. And then, his ability to sustain that speed is as good as anyone I've seen as well. You touched on it last night. Saab's an absolute flyer, but he mowed him down. So, yeah, look, I've never seen anyone with Lofi's speed, mate. It's quite incredible, actually.
Hey, before I let you go, Foz, you're saying you've still got the hunger to play rugby league, but you don't have the hunger to play golf anymore. You're not playing golf during the footy season. What's happening?
Don't start, Sats, I tell you. My golf game's horrible at the moment. I haven't played in about 4 months since I had the injury to the bicep, and I keep getting asked when I'm going to get back out on the glades and have a hit again. And I've banned golf for the rest of the year. I'm not playing it. I've decided I'm going to wait till the off season and then I'll get back into it. So, I think I'll just park that one for the time being.
Well,
how's your game going?
My game's going all right. Now, the last time he played, AP and listeners, he shot something like 44 points Stableford, which is absolute highway robbery. So, hey, Foz, one of our good friends, Temper, they sponsor our show for the player that would have had the best night's sleep. So you're sitting back, you're watching all of your team last night, and you have a pretty good night's sleep, I'd think, after every game. But who's a player in the Titans who would have had a good night's sleep last night?
Oh, mate, I'm going to say Brimo.
Yeah.
I thought he was outstanding. I thought Brimo was outstanding. Mate, I love the line breaks he made and just his footy. He's another one. He's just so explosive, and, mate, the sky's the limit for that bloke. So, it's quite incredible. I'm sure he would have slept well.
Yeah, good shout. It creates a concern, but when you got Keanu coming back at some stage. Hey, have a great weekend. Good win last night, Foz. Hope you've pulled up injury-free, and have a great weekend with the family. Thanks for joining us on a Saturday morning.
Always a pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me. Ta.
Absolute champion. Now, not only is he a legend player, but he will make a great coach one day. Yep. You just hear the way he explains the game. He's got great communication skills. He's a hell of a nice guy. And he gets instant aura about him as well, just because of his career. So it's big of him to join us on Saturday morning kickoff, Saturday League kickoff here, such an early time after a game. Adrian Prezanko, Scotty Sattler here on a Saturday morning. Let's get to a break. On the other side, we're going to talk about everything Origin and also get to some of your text messages. Oh, thanks for joining us on a Saturday morning. Hope your weekend has started out brilliantly and hope we're playing a A big part in that as well. Myself, Scott Sattler, Adrian Pasenko is in for Webby, who is at home with COVID. So shout out to you, Webby. He'd be sniffling and wouldn't he be carrying on? He'd be a horrible sick person, I think, Webby.
You reckon he won't be just getting a codral and a cup of cement? And no.
He'd have blankets up under his. He'd have the heaters on. He'd have little Stevie Nicks, his staffy, snuggle up alongside him. Hey, a lot of love for Kieran Foran. We just caught up with him. If you've missed the chat with Kieran Foran, you get on the podcast, get the SEN app, wherever you get your podcasts, the apps from, I should say, and listen to the podcast. Kieran Foran, what a warrior, boys, and also Braden, who's in Perth. And Braden, can you give us a call throughout the next hour and a half? 1300 01 1170. He's a Titans fan in Perth. I want to know what it's like over in Perth. We want to know if is there a lot more, I suppose, promotion for Origin than what we saw leading into Game 1. There wasn't much going on in Brisbane at all. And Braden said, morning legends, let's get in early. What a win last night by the Titans. Good to see the boys enjoying themselves and smiling after the game. I was critical of them last week. Very happy Daly had a night to forget. Maybe Billy made the right call, but made the wrong one leaving Bowie out. Have a great weekend. Yeah, I think he made the wrong call leaving Beau Fermor out. Well, it remains to be seen whether the decision around Daly Cherry-Evans is the right call also. And we're going to talk about that, the latest from the Origin news throughout the week. And did you head up to the Blue Mountains throughout the week, AP?
I had a couple of trips up there.
Yeah.
So I do my best work. There's this little room in there. It's like a library and it's got old books and mahogany. And this is at the Fairmont Resort.
Yep.
And it's literally where all the print journos go, and we normally get a player brought to us. It says, coming off the training paddock where it's cold and freezing, and then we literally thaw them out and, get them to warm up and tell some stories.
Is there a fire going?
There's a hot fire. I think there's some cocoa if you're into that. All that's required is some pipe and slippers, and
so
there you go.
All mahogany? And do you put a robe on and stroke a cat? And
all of that sort of
pipe
stuff. But best laid plans. So my plan for this Origin campaign was to do a big read with Mitchell Moses on the Sunday.
Yeah.
So I've got him on my own. We've had a bit of a chat. And the thing, my sort of premise for this story was that I'd said to him, I remember interviewing you when you were still a teenager and you and Luke Brooks were about to come into the NRL. And I still recall that first chat at Concord. And he was quite, I wouldn't say arrogant, but just quite, confident for a guy that his age. He hadn't done anything in the game at that point. And I said, what would the 30-year-old Mitch Moses say to that young whippersnapper that I interviewed all this time ago? And unfortunately, it's not a story that's going to be told in the Sun Herald tomorrow, but he was really good about how he's matured, and he's, obviously a captain of a club, and he understands the responsibility of being a playmaker. And a lot of it, he said, was about how he addresses his teammates. Like before, he was a bit volatile. If things didn't go his way, he might blow up or snap at his teammates. And it's about being on an even keel, being calm, and the players sort of respond to that. He gets the best out of them that way when he's calm.
Yeah, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. It's always been big in leadership, hasn't it? Many people questioned about whether he went into Origin the first time, whether he would actually handle the environment of Origin and whether he could be that player that doesn't have to be the alpha every time and can play a part. And I've got to say, he's been so impressive going to that level. It's just found something extra as well.
Well, one of his first Origins, he played with a fractured back. So we know that he's tough. And then last Origin, he had to be selfless because they decided that Nathan Cleary was going to be the main ball player. He'd be doing most of the kicking. Mitchell Moses got the biggest boot in the NRL, and he only kicked 4 times last time. So he was able to be selfless. And that's a sign of a good player. He just did his role, and now it's up to Jerome Luai to complement Nathan Cleary, as they have done so many times in the past at club and state level.
Yeah, don't have to do many sessions together, both Luai and Cleary. They've got talking about this during the week with Matty Rogers on Sports Day on SEN, is that they've got this communication system where it's eyebrows, eyes, hands. It doesn't have to be, it's non-verbal.
Yeah.
It's dangerous for Queensland. The one thing from a Queensland fan that I'm looking forward to is that Kalen Ponga and the wingers won't be bringing the ball back from 2 or 3 metres off their try line because of, and you're saying only kicked 4 or 5 times in Game 1, but still those 4 times, they're 40, 50, 60 metre kicks. They drive you well inside your 10 metre area, and the other end of the field just looks so far away. It means your forwards have to go an extra 10 or 15 metres to get behind the ruck. Your hook has to work double time to get back as well. It all adds up. It takes so much out of your playing group when you've got a long kicking game. So by putting Jerome Luai in that position, yes, he's got that left foot kick. It's not as long. It is still confusing for the fullback positionally.
Yeah.
But he just knows. I think it brings Kalen Ponga in the game more with not having that long kicking game from Mitchell Moses.
Well, the other thing it did is it took pressure off Nathan Cleary last game because they weren't quite sure which way they were going to go. There were 2 points of attack. Now we know that Nathan's going to do the majority. And it's going to be really interesting because we talk about DCE not being in that side. He had that long kicking game. They don't really have that now that Tom Dearden's in. And, Tom Dearden has also his role at halfback. Like, he's played 35 times at halfback with the number 7 jersey on his back. They've won 26 of those times. So that's what 25% winning record. Can he do it with in the biggest game when his side is down 1-0 trying to save the series? Massive responsibility for him.
Well, that is that's the biggest question about the DCE dropping as well. Got a bit of audio here. It's Gus Gould, and he questions that also about the importance of this game and the role that Tom Dearden has to play.
I'm just wondering what Dearden can provide that Daly Cherry-Evans couldn't, because Dearden doesn't play the Cherry-Evans role for his club side. Now he's got to walk into Origin when they're 1-0 down in the series against a very good New South Wales side. And I don't think any halfback, let alone a rookie, is going to function behind a forward pack that was beaten up as badly as them.
I get it. I do. I disagree with it because we only have to go back a couple of years when he was brought into one of the biggest arenas of all time, which is Suncorp Game 3. And it's only 2 days' notice. He's gone from 18th man to 5/8 because Cam Munster goes down with COVID. And he's given the keys of the side and more or less said, you're going to make your debut at Suncorp, which makes it a lot easier because it's your home crowd, but still the occasion as well, and got a man of the match performance as well. So handling the occasion won't be a problem because you don't prepare for these occasions throughout the week. You prepare them through your upbringing. And knowing the way Tommy Dearden has been raised through his family, it's a rugby league family, it's a tough family as well. And anyone who knows Tommy Dearden as well through their schooling years and also coming into grade as a young man, this is a kid that is well beyond his years when it comes to maturity. He'll handle the occasion easy. And I know that's coming from a Queenslander, but knowing not only Tommy Dearden, but more importantly, knowing his lineage, his pathway, I think he handles it easy.
I think he's going to offer more threat with the football. And
Absolutely,
that is really important. Obviously, his running game. In the past 2 games, Queensland have scored 1 try, and that was off a Latrell Mitchell mistake.
Yep.
So, obviously, more responsibility for Cam Munster as well with the captaincy. So, they have to click and generate some points.
Now, on DCE, MG, Mark Guy, great guy, MG. I was with him yesterday. He's got a great podcast called Life in 5 where it's 5 of your most important photos that define your life. And you talk about it. It's a really good concept. And you can watch it on YouTube. But also, it's on social media as well. But there's a text here that says, Scotty, dropping DCE is a massive call. Queensland lost game 1 because their forward pack was non-existent. DCE should have been picked for game 2. Billy should inject Tommy Dearden in the game earlier than he did in game 1. I completely agree with you when it comes to that. Put him on before half-time. But in saying that, MG throughout the week as well on radio, this is what he had to say about DCE and the Queensland forward pack.
Now, every forward in the Queensland team in that first game of Origin, they've all got to ring up Daly Cherry-Evans. They've all got to apologise to him for ending his Origin career. Because how you drop a halfback after your team gets demoralised, I'll never know. Because it's not him making the hits up front or the tackles up front. It's the forwards, and every one of them forwards have got to apologise to their former captain because, in a sense, they've ended his career.
He makes a good point. He makes a really good point. Now, the halfback does also have to change momentum of the game through kicking games and control the tempo, but his forward pack didn't give him a great platform.
Well, sort of what's been lost in all of this is that New South Wales have dropped 2 captains in the space of 2 series. So
thank you for bringing that up in your maroon shirt.
Well, Michael Maguire, that was a really difficult call to drop James Tedesco. Tedesco came back, as you recall, later in the series when Dylan Edwards
got injured. Yeah.
So he didn't spit the dummy, and then he was spared a pretty tough decision, or a tough conversation at least with Jake Trebojevic, given that he had concussion that first game, and he wasn't going to be picked regardless, even if he was fit. So those decisions have been vindicated. Let's see if that's still the same case with Billy Slater.
Yeah, Andy D says, Gus saying that means Gus saying what he said means he's more worried about Dearden than DCE. It's reverse bizarro from Gus, Andy D says on the text line. Now, I love that Max King has replaced Mitch Barnett and gets a starting New South Wales jersey. I think it's the perfect 1-2 punch. You got Payne that does, he's the big dog, isn't he, when it comes to front rows, and you got Max that just gets through all the work and does everything at a real high percentage. So I like that.
Can I ask you this, Sats? If we're picking an Australian team today, before this game, how many Maroons are in there? There wouldn't be more than
Would you base it
5 or
purely
6.
on game one? If you based it purely on game one, just purely on the
I
performances,
reckon you'd go maybe
I'd go Nene
Carrigan,
and
Nanai.
maybe Robert Toya.
Yeah, well, Robert Toyer's not going to...
I know, but just based purely on the performance.
Even if you... Well, when you consider that a lot of those players are coming from a Broncos side that's struggling...
Yep.
Also, North Queensland have been up and down. If you based it on the whole season, I don't think you'd get more than sort of 4 or 5 definites.
Yeah. Well, we know there are some definites. Your Munsters are definite, and
Tino potentially
is a definite.
Yep.
What happens with that? With if you're elite, I know it's
the best thing is before we go there, let's not go there. But there could be a former New South Wales coach picking that side soon. It could be Brad Fittler very soon.
Yeah, true. I still think Victor Radley should be allowed to play State of Origin,
please.
even though he was born and bred in Sydney, and even though he's eligible for England. I think he should be allowed to play. He did get picked. Remember, he got picked one year, got ruled out, suspended as well for New South Wales. Now let's flip across to Queensland, because some. Would you say bizarre selections from Billy?
Well,
I'll tell you what is completely left field, where you've got Cotter remains in the back row. This is just for now. I think it's going to be different by the time run out happens.
There's
on
no
Wednesday
way
night.
that Nanai and Carrigan are starting on the bench.
Carrigan on the bench. Nene, who was Queensland's best player.
Yeah, they were probably their 2 best forwards, and it was interesting. I described that little library that we were talking to. Angus Crichton just said, that's mind games.
Yeah.
Like, it's rubbish. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, so it is a stranger. What if he does start off the bench, Nene and Carrigan, it's purely the first 15 or 20 minutes. Let's just try and win the game defensively.
Hold them.
Yeah, let's just hold, and then Nene and Carrigan come on and offer that impact. Carrigan is he's an engine man. He's got a massive engine. He just goes for long periods of time. So the only thing I can think about with Paddy Carrigan is he's got a really good offload in his game. Maybe that at the back end of the first half can break up New South Wales defence. And then you got Nene with his speed and his movement, purely because of his youth. Well, that could shock New South Wales as well.
I listened to MG's comments, and I'll tell you exactly where my mind goes straight away. Them not kicking off to Spencer Leniu. That's a disgrace. Like he wants to take it. Surely that he's thrown down the gauntlet and said, "Run at me, have a go," and they've chickened out. It's cowardly.
I'm trying to look for a reason to disagree with you. I'm not going to use the word cowardly. I'm using the word tactics. Tactically,
please.
But in a round game, an NRL game,
Are they going to do it again this time?
but in an NRL round game, I wouldn't have kicked off to him. Like, there was a guy that played for the Warriors fans out there. Can you remember him? His name was Paliacina.
Oh, he was so good.
Paliacina. We deliberately wouldn't kick off to him because you'd get injured trying to tackle him.
But this is State of Origin.
But Origin is different. You've got to kick off and, you've got to take the ball on.
You talk about bizarre selections. Do you think that they've helped or hindered Ezra Mann by putting him into that extended squad, given that everything that he's been through so far this year?
Who's that, sorry?
Ezra Mann, in as part of that extended Maroon squad.
I haven't got a problem with it because we all want to. We all suffer from this thing called presentism.
Yeah.
Where we want to go back and we want to change history. We want to resuspend him, and it's not going to happen. Okay. Do I think that he should have been given a bigger suspension? Absolutely.
Well, he didn't make that decision,
No,
right?
he did.
So the NRL made a decision, and there was a judge that made a decision. I get that, but do you think that bringing him into that Maroons environment, given he's only played a couple of games and there's been a lot of heat on him already, does that help him?
I think if he was an 18th man, I think it's fine because you just let him experience it because he's going to play for Queensland one day. Okay, is it maybe saying that you've done wrong in the past and we're going to reward you with a possible Queensland jersey? Possibly. Do I want to resuspend him? And no, you can't do it. So everyone just at some stage just go, you know what, he's stuffed up.
Yep.
And hopefully he's going to learn from the experience and just move on from it. And sometimes as rugby league fans, we've got to do it as well. Yeah. So, anyway, for what that's worth, give us a call. 1300 01 1170 is the number. And our text line is 0457 736 736. Scott Sattler, Adrian Pasenko are in the seat for Saturday League kickoff. And now, on the other side of the break, we're going to go into a Blues legend, get his thoughts on the New South Wales side. That man is Shaun Timmins, and he's going to be up next. Yeah, welcome back to the show. Shaun Timmins was about to come on the show. He just got a text from me saying, "Hey, Sats, I've had double knee replacement. I've had to go back into hospital." So I hope he's okay, Timo. Those crappy knees of his.
Best laid plans. Wow.
Remember that field goal he kicked in 2004? Game
One
one.
of the greats.
Playing 5'8", had one of the great games, 9-8 that game was.
Yep.
Yeah. I was going to put him through a bit of a trivia, actually. It was which player passed to the ball, and he also brushed an assistant coach in the celebration.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So you think it would have been the hooker that passed it to him?
Well, it is, but it's a trick question. Maybe he's thinking, why was I taking much notice? I'm not quite sure.
Interesting.
Hey, so we're going to move on to some of our other topics we're going to get to throughout the show. Thank you for joining us, whether you're watching us through Fox League or KO or listening to us through the entire SEN network. Hope you're having a great start to your weekend. And also, I've got a good little story before we get into this. I was going to talk about it in the Roosters game when we talk about the Saturday and Sunday games. Shout out to Craig Cousins. Now, people will be saying, who's Craig Cousins? He's a truck driver in Queensland. Okay, there's a big race at Eagle Farm in Brisbane today. Gamble responsibly. It's called the Stradbroke Handicap. It's one of Queensland's biggest races on the calendar. Now, he's taking on the big trainers today, this Craig Cousins. It's a great story. He's got a truck company, small truck company. He's got some horses on the Sunshine Coast. And in the Stradbroke today, he's got a horse called Inflictor. He's a massive Roosters fan, and it's named after Victor the Inflictor. So I think it's paying about $21. $21, is it?
Gamble responsibly.
There you go. So good luck to Craig Cousins, one of the small guys. Hope he gets up against the bigwigs. So you were covering a number of stories this week.
Yep.
One was around Shane Richardson, West Tigers, and on their podcast. Made some comments around the officiating against the Panthers last week.
So first and foremost, I like what Shane Richardson is doing in terms of his communication with the fans.
I agree, yeah.
He does a semi-regular address. He does it in podcast form. And he gave them an update on a whole matter of things. For instance, the fact that Taylor May's coming, the signing of Kai Pearce-Paul from next year. And part of it was him addressing the way the Tigers have been officiated. I know that Benji Marshall was critical of some of the calls that went against his side last weekend, and Shane Richardson agreed with his assessment of that. But he might have just gone a little bit too far. And the comment I think the NRL are looking at in particular is the fact that he says teams lower on the ladder, there's a bias against them. Like if there's a 50-50 call, they tend not to get the rub of the green.
You can't use the word bias, but
I don't know if that's the actual word he said, but that was the inference.
Yeah.
And he said it in a way that basically we need to move up the ladder so that we're one of those teams that are getting those calls. But all of a sudden, as soon as you start questioning the integrity of the referee or suggesting there's bias, that's massive drama from an NRL point of view. And we just saw Todd Payten got a reminder a few weeks ago about his what they called consistent criticism of referees over a long period of time.
Yep.
So you've got to be really careful. I like that he's open and transparent.
Are the NRL, are they scrutinising this?
100%.
They are,
Yeah. So I got in touch with them last night. They're going to have a look at it. They'll listen to the whole thing in context. And it'll be interesting to see what adjudication they make.
I agree with you. I love that he's very transparent. I love it that he's open. Again, it's not what you say, it's how you say things as well. Yep. But it's. I'd like the NRL to hopefully look at what context it's set in, and the setting that it's set in as well. Like we can get guilty, with all this podcasting going on now. You get very, very comfortable in the environment that you're with and the company that you keep. And
you said that yourself. I think you were on one just earlier in the week.
Yes,
and you sort of, you let your defences down because it's not the same as an official press conference.
Yeah.
And these podcasts often go for half an hour, an hour and a half, and you loosen up as they go on. And by about an hour and a half in, you say things you wouldn't have said in the first 5 minutes.
Brian Fletcher, on the other hand, his mind just works like that all the time. So
a good journo once said to me, when you're interviewing someone, It doesn't matter what order you ask them. You never hit them with between the eyes straight away. You soften them up, and when they get a bit comfortable, that's when you get them.
I hope the NRL don't come down too hard on Richo. There is also a plan in Sportsland where you try and send a message to the officials that you are not getting the rub of the green as well. So your next game, hopefully, that they do think twice about some decisions they may make.
But I've seen this from club CEOs when there's been a shocker on the field.
Yep.
The coach is hot under the collar and he goes into the press conference and the last words before he goes in, he goes, "You say whatever you want, I'll pick up the bill."
Yeah.
And more often than not, they think that by having a spray, one, it deflects away from the performance of the team, and two, they're more likely to get the penalty count the following week.
Do you know our first year at the Titans, I used to sit in the box next to John Cartwright, and down on the sideline was Trevor Gilmeister and Steve Murphy, the assistant coaches. And we were next to the video referee one day, and they gave a try to Manly, which was at Brookie it was a clear shepherd. Grabbed the ball, ran around the defender, scored in the corner, the northeastern corner. And Cardi said to me during the game, "Can you go and ask what that was for?" So I stupidly walked next door, opened up the door, and said, "Can you tell me what that was for?" $5,000 fine.
Or did they escort you out? Did security take you out of the building?
You can't approach a referee. So what was that? I just opened up the door casually and said, "Can you tell me what that..."
What's doing?
I may have said, "Can you tell me what that effing penalty, that try was for?" Yeah, so I got the $5,000
That was very naive, even for you.
I know. Hey, we asked Braden, one of our very loyal listeners at SEN and viewers also for Fox Sports and KO. He lives in Perth, 1300 01 1170 if you want to give us a call. And he has given us a call to tell us about what's happening over in the West when it comes to Origin. How are you, Braden?
Good, Sats. Yourself?
Going very well, pal. Thank you very much for listening and watching as well, and also calling in, taking time. So tell us, set the scene for us over there. You're our correspondent.
Well, I wish I could give you some exciting news,
Yep.
but I tell you what, it's absolutely dead over here, mate.
Oh.
There's been bugger all. There's been nothing. There's been no talk about it. We went to took my daughter to Disney on Ice on Thursday night, and the only thing I've actually seen about it is banners going through the city with maroon and blue banners. That's been it. Nothing, no talk. Actually, hasn't even been much on the TV. Channel 9 throw their promos on over here, but that's been literally about it. Been nothing, not much at all. A mate of mine actually said to me yesterday, he goes, "Oh, when's game 2?" Said, "It's here next week and it's here in Perth." "Oh, are you going?" Said, "Well, I'm waiting on the birth of my second baby, so I thought I'd do the righty and I'll save my money and watch it from home so I don't get in trouble." But yeah, they're bugger all, mate. Not much at all.
Wow.
Brian, what's the pervading sentiment? If you live in Perth, are you cheering for New South Wales or for Queensland?
Queensland through and through, mate.
He's a Gold Coast
Queensland
Titans
through
fan.
and through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been a Gold Coast Titans member for 18 years, mate. So, yeah, it's been a long road, but I'm a hard Queensland man, mate. Nothing else.
So Braden, and I've never asked you this over all the years you've been listening to the show. What took you over to Perth?
I was born here in Perth, but my mum's side of the family are all from all from Queensland. So I've got an auntie that lives in Tugun, and we go to Queensland twice a year, and we grew up. And when the Titans come back in the comp in 2007, in 2008, I went, I'm going to go for the Titans. I actually signed up as a Gold Coast Suns member when they come into the comp as well.
Braden, the New South Wales Blues are going through their final preparations today. They'll do a post session and then they'll start making their way to Perth. Do you feel that they're not on the ground in Western Australia for long enough? Do you think it'd help from a promotional point of view if they spent more time in Perth in the lead-up?
I think, AP, for the promotion of the game, I honestly think they should spend over a week here going around to schools and actually promoting the game a little bit more. I get it's not club game, but I mean for the biggest game in NRL, like they should be promoting it. When South Sydney come here in Perth, they're one of the only teams that go to all the schools. They spent when they come here for the doubleheader, they spent almost 2 weeks here, and every day they were at primary schools across the state. They were down in Mandurah, which from city to Mandurah is about an hour and 40 minutes away, nearly 2 hours drive. they promote the NRL like you wouldn't believe over here. They're out in Ellenbrook, because Ellenbrook actually have a team called the Ellenbrook Rabbitohs. They were out at training sessions. They were out at schools. The Origin team here, they don't do anything. They literally come. They have one training session here, and that's it.
That's interesting.
They have on Wednesday. On Tuesday, Sats, they have a press conference in the city, and for younger people, it's not that easy to get into our city here, to get on a train and get into the heart of the city. But we've actually forecast thunderstorms from tomorrow all week next week. So Wednesday night's going to be 70% chance of rain and an overnight low of 12. And it's going to be from tomorrow. We're going to have a hell of a lot of rain kick in. So it is a little bit disappointing. I see Queensland flew in. They landed last night. So I gather they'll be around the city. But when they stay, they're normally here in the city. I caught up with a couple of the boys when they come for the second game over here in our Elizabeth Quay sort of area. But they didn't really, the interaction with the fans was very, very, very minimal.
Braden, can I ask you this? Do the Perth Bears, are they moving the needle at all? Is there any excitement about Mal Meninga's appointment? Is there any coverage in the local media? We know that Seven West is obviously very much AFL aligned. Is there any hype or buzz at all about a new franchise on your doorstep?
Not from what I can hear, mate. No, not particularly. Our local talkback radio here, 882, they promoted a little bit. But our SEN channel here, SEN WA, I try and send a text in to them once a day just to get a little bit of rugby league talk going there. And I send a text in on Thursday just to get an idea on what AFL fans' opinions are on it. And they said they're excited, but that's literally been it. There hasn't even been any promotion of that here, like on buses or anything, or nothing on the radio, or not really much at all.
Hey, Braden, our correspondent on the West, that is absolutely outstanding update in all forms of rugby league. Thanks for ringing up, mate. And most importantly, Grad's on the second bub. Do you know what it is, boy or girl?
Thanks, boys. A little boy. So hopefully we can have him in a Queensland jersey in 20 years' time. And
what's his name going to be? Are you going to reveal that now officially? And is it after any certain rugby league player?
Well, I did want to call him Tino, and my missus said no. So we're not sure on that front yet.
Great stuff. Hey, Braden, I'm coming over on Wednesday, so reach out. Would love to meet you face to face, and also thank you very much for taking time out to give us a call this morning, mate.
No worries at all, boys. Love your work. Thanks.
Hey, let's get to a break here on Saturday League Kickoff. That was outstanding, wasn't it?
Good on the ground.
Good. I tell you what, it's a good insight into the Origin players not being over there as well.
I hope the NRL's listening in terms of the promotion that needs to be done over there.
Good stuff. Hey, let's get to a break on a Saturday morning. On the other side, we're going to get to some of your texts. Welcome back to the second hour of Saturday League Kickoff. Scott Sattler, Adrian Prasenko, live across Fox League and also SEN Radio. Thank you for joining us on a Saturday morning, our first hour. Well, we got to Kieran Foran. He was great with his time talking about that amazing win against Manly last night. Basically, it was just an afterthought. If you thought the Titans were going to win last night, you were part of probably the 2 or 3 percentile.
Yep.
Or you're the hardcore fans, like Braden, who just called up from Perth, thinking or hoping they were going to get a win against Manly. But we've got a lot of Manly fans who are texted in that are pretty disgruntled at the moment. The Seagulls' edge defence is diabolical. No resilience or ability to change momentum. No doubt the DCE drama has derailed their season. Good riddance, 315 says.
It's probably worth remembering too that they were totally unaffected by Origin. So Hamai Olakauatu was there, DCE was there, no one else was picked. It's the first time in 10 years, since 2015 Game 3, that they haven't had a State of Origin representative. And the other mob had Tino out, they had Mo out, so all of that, their forward pack was decimated, and yet they still steamrolled them.
Exactly. And Jared, he's been strong on DCE, says they need to drop him like Queensland have. Good luck to the team that decides to sign him next year. We're going to get to that very, very soon. Shaun Timmins was going to join us, but he's been rushed to hospital because he just had a double knee replacement. He's got the ugliest knees I've ever seen.
When you think about tough guys, he comes to mind. The other one, I actually think Kieran Foran, and I'm not just saying this because he was one of our special guests, but his body must be like that of a 50-year-old. He's only 34, but in terms of a guy who takes the ball right to the line, he digs deeper than any other half, and him putting himself in front of much bigger people defensively. He plays so tough.
I think Kieran Foran, we talk about players who change positions. I thought Belcher changed the way fullbacks played.
Yeah.
And then also, Billy came along, but I thought Belcher played more like that 5'8" role as well. And then you've got all these different players that change, the hooking position as well. Benny changed the way hookers played, Benny Elias. But I think Kieran Foran made coach halves differently. The way they had to engage a defensive line and create opportunities for others and ask questions. I may be wrong. 0457 736 736 or 8833 if you're from New Zealand listening. There may have been someone before, but he's been going that long. I can't think of anyone before that used to dig into the line so deep and know that he was going to cop some sort of contact around his rib cage.
He can also be a chameleon in that when Michael Maguire needed him for New Zealand duty, they had 4 or 5 of their first start hookers out.
Yeah.
He just came in and did the job. Selfless.
And left Australia too, didn't they?
Yep, they left Australia, and he was prepared to make his tackles to get in a dummy half, whatever it took.
Yep. Hey, we're going to review also the Thursday night game, Sharks versus Dragons. For you Sharkies or Dragons fans, make sure you send us a text. 0457 736 736. Port Adelaide Dragon, he's got in early as well. He said, Dragons, you're killing me. He said, Sloan will be playing in Group 7 before the year is out. Luciano Pavarotti has to go. He's lazy. Flanagan needs to have an honest word to Kyle. Suggestion for both of their sakes. Yeah, it's there's a lot going on at the Dragons to give up leads like they have.
Well, how's it going to work? So if you've got Daniel Atkinson coming to the club next year, you've got Jonah Glover, who's a talented young player who can't get a start, who's off contract.
It wouldn't surprise me if Toby Sexton ended up there. Toby
Sexton, well, does it mean that he moves his son out of the halves? How's that going to work?
Well, if you're not getting results and you're not, and like I was saying earlier on, this is not a personal opinion solely on Kyle Flanagan and young Tongia, but your halves control the tempo of the game. If you're leading the game, you're the one that's got to steer your team home. And if you're giving up leads, well, something's got to be asked. Yes, your forward pack play a huge role in that as well, but your halves are the ones that control the kicking game, the speed of the game as well. Do we slow it down? Do we need to speed it up? Whatever it may be, your halves have to have that rugby league intelligence to do that. And if you're not, well, then you have to ask questions. Doesn't matter who they are in any side. So, and I'm sure that Shane Flanagan's been around long enough. He'll have those honest discussions. He seems to be an upfront sort of guy. So I think he might have to make some tough decisions there. We're also going to preview the rest of the split round over Saturday and Sunday as well. Take your calls as well, and let's look into some of the other big news of the week. We got some callers coming up very soon about DCE. We've got Luke from Albany Creek waiting on the line as well. But before we do that, scheduling. I was only looking at this throughout the week. Panthers draw. They got Origin Wednesday night with 5 players in Perth.
Yeah.
Then they play the Warriors on Saturday in New Zealand.
Yeah.
So you'd think those 5 players won't get back in time to fly to New Zealand.
Yep. In the past, the Panthers have had the luxury of resting those guys because normally they're first or second on the competition ladder, and all of a sudden they can't afford to lose any games. And I spoke to some of those guys in camp, like a Dylan Edwards, for instance. He said, we'd like to back up, but ultimately the decision's not up to us.
Yep.
How can you back up when there's not a direct flight from Perth to New Zealand to Auckland? Basically means you're spending a day in the air, in airports. It's an absolute nightmare. And they could be potentially celebrating a series win, which you've got to back up from that as well. So just this morning, I had a chat to Peter V'landys about this very thing. And you've got to remember that we've got
Before
PNG.
we keep going, after New Zealand, they've got a 5-day turnaround against the Bulldogs the following week as well.
It's 3 games in about 8 days or something ridiculous. So the club actually thought about getting a charter jet, but I just think in terms of the logistics, it'd just be too hard.
Yeah.
So I rang Peter V'landys this morning and I asked him about this, just given especially we've got PNG coming in, we've got Perth coming in, we've obviously got a team in New Zealand. There's a lot of travel for teams like North Queensland. And I said, is there a chance that the NRL will either buy or lease a charter jet? And he said that it's very much on the agenda. They're doing a feasibility study about it now. There's a lot more travel involved. Obviously, this type of a jet isn't the one that you're going to be able to jet over to Vegas. But one of the things that he said is that we can commercialise this by saying if you're a fan of your team, you can actually get a flight with them. So you can be on the same plane, and all of a sudden the clubs can do some promotions around that. So hopefully it's feasible. They're looking into it, and that will take a lot of strain off, particularly those teams that are outside of New South Wales and Queensland.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. Hey, let's get on to DCE. Where's he going? So what's next for Seagulls captain? And many have always said that he's going to be going to the Roosters. The one thing, and again, I've been quite, pretty consistent with this, is that DC is the sort of guy that, and to his credit, he's always, and you as a journo would know this as well, is that he's always held everything really close to his chest. Those people are very close to him, his family. I would even dare say his agent wouldn't be the first person to know with a lot of his discussions and decisions. Has he made a decision? I'm not quite sure. The one thing I will throw up is at the start of the year, your body feels great. You're ready to go for another season. You start the season and your team's going okay. And then you're making these big decisions about your future. I'm not going to be at Manly anymore. Then you get to halfway through your season, you're in your 30s, and the body's not working as great as it is. You're not being able to do the things that you naturally always been able to do. And then you start playing with your mind in relation to what you do. Is retirement on the plans? Because it wouldn't surprise me if Daly just came out and shocked everyone and said, no, actually, I'm actually going to walk away from the game.
He's always said that the best part of his week is game day.
Yep.
And I think it's not even the training, it's the pre-season and doing that at his age. But when you think back to the start of the year and we first found out that he was available, you thought, well, clubs will be inundating him and his agent with offers. But, Manly had won 3 of their first 4 games. But since then, his stocks have really plummeted. At the time, he was the Queensland captain and halfback. He's no longer that. His own form has tailed off a fair bit. You talked about his agent. He actually confides in a guy called Joe Weeby a lot, who sort of helps him with the mental side of the game. So I think he's still as sharp as ever. But whether physically he can cope with the demands of another game, of another season, remains to be seen. The other thing is, all the talk is that he's going to the Roosters, and are they getting buyer's remorse? So we know that Sandon Smith is playing really well. Sam Walker's about to come back into that team. Hugo Savala has been outstanding. He's shown himself to be
They got a young half coming through.
I actually spoke to him. His name's Toby Rodwell.
Yes.
His father is Matt Rodwell, who actually played 1 game for New South Wales. I think he played about 8 minutes
Brett
before.
Rodwell.
Oh, sorry, Brett Rodwell.
Centre.
Yes.
Former Steeler legend.
I think he played about 8 minutes, scored a try, and then got injured in his only origin. And I said to him, what are your thoughts? Because you're contracted to the club. You're seen as the guy who long-term will take over. What do you think about DCE potentially coming in? And he was really good about it. He said, for me, that's a bonus. I'm only young. If I get a chance to learn from one of the legends of the game, that's something that I want to do every day of the week. However, it puts another impediment in his path to first grade. I reckon Sandon Smith will leave, for sure, if that was to happen. Yeah, I don't know. Do you think that the Roosters are better off with DCE? And can he still have that Cooper Cronk style effect that everyone thought maybe 2 or 3 months ago?
I think they'd be silly not to if he's ready to go again. Yeah, I would definitely take him on if I was the Roosters. I would only make it a year, and the second year would be in their favour. You've got to put some risk analysis in place as well.
And he's such a manly man. You sort of risk your legacy too, just for one season. You want to be remembered as that one club guy, and you sort of take that away. I think you might be right. I think retirement, it wouldn't totally surprise me if that was on the cards.
1300 01 1170 is our open line, and Luke from Albany Creek in Brizzy has given us a call. How are you, Luke?
Yeah, good, thanks, boys. Sorry, there's a bit of background noise. I'm just sitting in Wing House. Recommend the garlic parmesan wings. Boys, I just wanted to talk about DCE. I think he's a bit of a scapegoat for the Maroons. I don't think it was his fault they lost. And I reckon he might be a bit of a smoky for the Eels.
For the Eels. Yeah, that's an interesting one, Luke, because like we say, not many people know. Everyone just speculates. And with the money that Dylan Brown's had to give up, they've obviously got to try and fill that somehow. Not all of it, but they've got to fill it somehow. So what gives you the impression, Luke?
Oh, mate, I get all my news from Facebook, so reliable.
So do I.
But they're just not talking about the Eels. Whether
Yep.
Roosters, there's a lot of chat about the Roosters, but these clubs are good at throwing you off the scent, so could be a good chance.
Yeah, I put that to Parramatta because I thought, particularly after they missed out on Galvin, I thought that he's a good option because they've got some really good young halves. And you sort of need a bridging player because they're probably 12 or 18 months away. They've got Lincoln Fletcher. They've got a couple of others that are looking really good. But I don't think they're going to go that way. But I could see why people would think it's a good idea.
It depends what your club needs.
Yeah.
If your club needs as close to what you would regard as success straight away or a big improvement. But if you don't, if you're a team that's sort of making the finals and you just need that, well, you just need that cherry on top. Absolutely. Or if you're a club that has not played finals for a lot of years and you need someone to come in and really change the fabric of the side.
Well, Jason Rolls has gone the other way. So he's gotten rid of guys like Regan Campbell-Gillard, Micah Sevo.
Well, he's taken the Bulldogs
Clint
angle,
Gutherson.
isn't it?
Yeah, he's decided that we're going to play the long game. I've got like a 4-year deal. The board have got confidence in me making long-term decisions. They're not concerned about if we have a little bit of teething pain first up as they get used to him and his systems. But yeah, he's taken a totally different tact and they're not in a rush. Like 2 or 3 months ago, Galvin wasn't on anybody's radar. He was contracted to the West Tigers. You just don't know what else will fall out. Same with DC. No one thought that he was going to go anywhere. They've got money and not many other teams have got a spot and money for a marquee half. If someone comes available, they can strike.
Josh on the text line says, as a Roosters fan, I'm excited to see Rodwell playing for the New South Wales under-19s next week. We're going to touch on that a little bit later on Thursday night. That is on TV as well. And I think it's why the club would be comfortable letting Sandon go. It'd be tough for letting Sandon go because he's such a good little player and can play a number of positions. So, but yeah, I mean, sometimes you've got to make those tough decisions. Yeah, when you've got good talent coming through.
That's interesting. Like we may talk a bit more about it, Sats, that under-19 side. In terms of the best predictor for who will make the step up to NRL, that's it. About 85% of those teams that are playing in the New South Wales under-19s and Queensland under-19 side will go on and become first graders. A lot of them will also go on and play senior state of origin level.
Really?
They are the best of the best. So that game on the Sunshine Coast is well worth tuning into.
Yep. 004 says Daly to the Dragons. We need all the help we can get. Hey, before we get to the break also, let's just touch on the Bulldogs. Phil Gould, impromptu visit to Belmore to address players regarding Lockie Galvin's mid-season arrival. This is always going to be a real challenge to manage the situation. And I know he's had some hurdles and some barriers in his early part of his head coaching career, Cameron Sorrello, trying to build that club up and getting a fan base to stay really patient as well, and sponsors and fans, and stay patient with what they're trying to achieve, and that's finally coming to the fore. Now, with Lockie Galvin coming in and things are going along so swimmingly, it can upset the apple cart a little bit. It's not because of the personality of the person themselves. It's some of the players that have been grafters their whole careers, and they've gone to the Bulldogs and they've gone to another level, and it's a reason why they're leading the comp. So to come in and just sort of rattle that cage a little bit, and we saw Reid Marnie was not happy when being replaced last week in that game. I think he had every right to feel a little bit upset and rejected in a way, but he's got to get over that really quickly. He's got to get over that really, really quickly, not kick any stones, and then just get back on the horse as quick as possible.
It's fascinating because Galvin played in that game. He made his debut for the Bulldogs after snubbing the Eels.
Yep.
I would have found it really fascinating to see if he'd come on for Parramatta at that same stage of the game against a team that had no ball, that had tackled themselves to a standstill. It would have been a much more difficult first-up assignment if he was playing off the back foot, whereas he sort of eased into what the Bulldogs were doing. But one of the things that we asked Stephen Crichton, who was available to us in Blues camp, was how did you respond to him? Because he's obviously really close mates with Jerome Luai. Jerome Luai's made it really clear that he was, he made that team first post, that he wasn't happy with what was going down. And were you sort of influenced by that? And he said, I didn't like the way it went down, but I wanted to make up my own mind. I wanted to meet him and see what he's about. And one of the things that the Bulldogs players do is they get everyone around in a group and they ask people their why, their motivation for playing, for joining the club. And they put it on Lachlan Galvin, and he spoke about wanting to develop and the reasons why he came to Belmore. So I think he won them over. But the one thing that Stephen Crichton said is that we're a defence-orientated club. And that's the part of the game that he's next going to have to work on. He's great with the ball in his hands, but we do all of our best work without the Steeden. So that's going to be the progression for a young guy who's got all the skills, and he's going to have to roll his sleeves up. And that's how he's going to impress his new Bulldogs teammates.
How good is that? Stephen Crichton, when we spoke to Cameron Ciraldo before, we said, did you identify when you were with him at Penrith that he had these leadership qualities? He said no. But when he arrived earlier than what we expected him to. He had this aura about him when he walked in. That comes with winning premierships and playing rep footy, and you get this air of confidence about you. And then to be able to sit down and have those conversations with young players when he's only young himself. Have those conversations, and they're club-focused questions. They're not individual questions.
It was a big call at the time because Reid Marnie and Matt Burton were the captains.
Yeah.
So he's taken that responsibility off them, given it to the new guy and said, you run with it. And he's done that. And he leads on and off the field with his actions.
Good stuff. Hey, thank you very much. Also, Luke, for giving us a call, 1300 01 1170. If you want to continue sending your texts, we're going to get to some of those next, 0457 736 736. And thanks to Winghouse. They do Origin better than most. You can book your seats now for next Wednesday night as well. So let's get to a break here. And on the other side, we're going to touch on Thursday night's win for the Cronulla Sharks. Welcome back to the show for our viewers that are watching live on Fox League and also KO. Hope you've had a great start to the weekend. And also our listeners throughout the entire SEN network. We love your interaction. And we can't get to all the text messages. We're trying to get to as many as we can. Thank you very much for the callers as well. Before we touch on Thursday night, Manly went up to the Gold Coast on Tuesday. A lot of creature comforts on the Gold Coast. A lot of beautiful golf courses, beaches, a lot of great scenery on the Gold Coast.
This is a Manly side that went to Las Vegas and played their best football, and you're talking about the Gold Coast's distractions.
And went to Townsville.
And they beat the Cowboys there.
Yeah,
there's only the Mad
Gold
Cow
Coast
to
is
distract them up there.
Yeah, different beast. So mentioning the Mad Cow, in 2000 at the Panthers, we'd won 6 in a row, and we played New Zealand in New Zealand, beat them, flew straight to Townsville, and spent the whole week in Townsville. On the Sunday night, we went to a toga party. On the Monday night, we went to a poker night at Bullwinkle's, and then you
had me at toga party.
Yeah, then in the first, I think, 2 minutes, we scored against a team of the Cowboys who weren't going that crash hot. And we scored, Matty Rodwell, the halfback, scored in about the first 2 or 3 minutes. I remember walking back and people were going, do you reckon we'll get some drink cards tonight at Mad Cow? And it's usually be a good night. Our flight's not till 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. Got beaten by about 30 after that, yeah. It's fair to say Roy Simmons didn't let us go out that night. Anyway, welcome back to the show. And thanks very much to Winghouse, our great partners. As I said earlier on, no better place to do State of Origin. Book a table now. We just heard, what did we hear then? We heard Luke saying he was at Winghouse eating the Parmesan wings.
Oh, wow.
How good's that sound? As well, we've got another caller, 1300 01 1170. We love it when you call up. Jake from Newcastle is on the line. How are you, Jake?
G'day, boys. Going well. How are you?
Going great. What's on your mind?
Mate, just listening to you talk about the Bulldogs, because it is a hot topic, and Lachlan Galvin. My question is to you, what would happen, do you think, if the Bulldogs were not to make the grand final this year, if Toby Sexton wasn't in the best 17, and watching, videos, he is very well liked, the Bulldogs, the players, and Galvin is in the half, let's just say they don't make the grand final. What happens in 2026? Is there a lot of pressure on the Dogs if they fail this year, with all the pressure they put on themselves with bringing Galvin in?
Well, I think, Jake, sorry, AP, if they don't make the grand final this year, I don't think it would be seen as a failure year because it's been continuing to build. If 2026, I think they become even stronger with a player like Galvin in there. Then you've got maybe Bailey Hayward, whether he's coming out of dummy half, whether Reid Marnie's there or not, whatever it may be. Now, if they're a club that's revolved around defence, and Reid Marnie has made the most amount of tackles for that team over the last couple of years, if they don't make the grand final, I don't think it's seen as a failure. I just think they build to be even a stronger club in 2026.
Yep. Don't think the pressure would be a bit too much, but with the media, because a lot of them don't like Gould,
Yeah, no, I don't think
Those
it will be.
jackals in the press. Yeah, look, I think that...
Are you a jackal?
I'm a jackal. I think that the Bulldogs have got a better chance, even though he's coming late just before the June 30 deadline, of going far into the final series with Galvin rather than with Toby Sexton. And that's not a knock on Sexton. He's been terrific. He's a much better footballer, I think, than the Bulldogs even originally thought they had on their books.
I think out of this, Jake, Toby Sexton is actually, his stocks have gone up. Because of it. And if he's not at the Bulldogs, he's going to get a contract at another club for more money than he's probably ever had.
And also the maturity that he's shown in walking Galvin into the fold, talking about, I'll do whatever the team needs.
Yep.
You know, he played at hooker and did his tackles and everything
Sends a good
that he
message
had to
to
do.
everyone else.
That future employers,
of course it does.
and there's not a lot of halves on the market at the moment. They're looking at that thinking, that's the type of person we want to bring into our fold.
Are you a Bulldogs fan, Jake?
I'm not a Bulldogs fan, I'm a Knights man, but I'm a big Sexton fan, and it's a bit sad in a way to see what happened with Galvin at the Tigers, because, you know, Luai and all them good players he had around him, you'd think he'd want to do an apprenticeship there, and then to come to the Bulldogs, and I really like Sexton, and then, you know, maybe not to see Sexton in the best 17, it wouldn't be great to see, just in my opinion anyway, as a fan.
The other thing is, how are the Bulldogs going to use
him? Thank you, Jake. Appreciate the call.
So he's there for 3.5 years. Probably his best position at the moment is in the halves, but he's 193 centimetres. Once he fills into his body, he could become a ball-playing back rower.
Well, he played back row in those Jersey flag. The junior rep comp.
And they won the comp.
Yeah, exactly. As one of our texts says here, what is it, 590 says, can we not talk about Galvin? Love the show, guys. We always seem to come back together. That's your fault, Jake. That's your fault.
I reckon it's later in the show. Maybe it's later on. We'll talk about the bloke marking Galvin. I've got a good story about him.
Who are they playing? South?
Bud Sullivan.
Bud Sullivan. Okay, yeah, please do. You're telling me that this. I think it's a really good story for the listeners and the viewers. Let's touch on Thursday night. The Sharkies, 30 points over the Dragons, 18. We've got a lot of texts here, and while I get you to talk about this game, AP, I'm going to just bring up some of the texts so we can get to some of those disgruntled Dragons fans, because they are one of the most passionate supporter bases in the NRL. What did you make of this game? Because I thought the Sharks were... They were okay in the first half. The Dragons were very good in the first half.
Yeah, I thought there's been some good signs there from a couple of the new outside backs that they've brought through. So Taganis, Nathan Lawson, who's come across from Rugby Sevens. And it just felt like it's another game that they let slip. Like, we've seen this 3 or 4 times this year now, where they get out to a lead of 2 converted tries or more and they let it slip. And they didn't trouble the scorers in the second half, did they? It was just, and they didn't throw anything at them. And I know that you, for instance, do the Daly M points. I thought, Jack DeBellin was very good.
He was outstanding for the Dragons.
Them, particularly in the first half when they had that forward ascendancy, but they just couldn't keep it going.
They couldn't. Blake Brayley, shout out to you. I thought it was one of his best regular season games that I've seen in a long time, and that was set up by Adam Fanua-Blake and Kafusi, and Britton Nickera playing his 150th game as well, a milestone there for the Sharkies. Also, Moses Suli playing 150 games, I think it was as well. Isn't that a great redemption story? I mean, that was self-inflicted himself early on in his career, where he was lazy, didn't want to train, and something or someone has been able to play a huge role in him getting to that milestone.
It's interesting with the Dragons, and I remember in the off-season talking to coach Shane Flanagan, and remember at the back end of last year, they seemed like they were going to cruise into the finals, and then they just really tailed away at the back end of the season. And he said, the guys that we brought in, guys like Val Holmes, like Damien Cook, like Clint Gutherson, they're the hard heads who will give us that steely edge to make sure there isn't that drop-off, and when we're heading in games, that we finish it off. But it's more of the same again this year.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. So great performance there, second half. Craig Fitzgibbon, when talking about the win after the game, this is what he had to say.
You might think I'm mad when I say this. I didn't think we were going that bad in the first half. There's parts of our play that we wanted to display tonight. Now take the scoreline out of it. We weren't searching for a scoreline. We were searching for some things we were looking at. And obviously it stings a bit when the scoreline says 18-6 for sure. But we were really clear on not getting away from what we thought we wanted to do tonight and play our way. And then it's really simple. We just kept doing it and it worked.
It's a funny old game, rugby league. Simplicity is when you get most of the results. We try and overcomplicate the game at times, and what the Sharks did in the second half is they ran north-south, or from that second half, it was south-north, and they ran hard. They used footwork. Adam Fanua-Blake was bending the line every time. Blake Brayley was getting out, and then all of a sudden, the ripple effect from that is your halves get more time, your fullback gets more time, everyone gets a lot more time when you feel like you're running downhill. Then your kicking game comes into it as well. So, well done. Well done. One of the good guys, Fitzy, as well. Shane Flanagan on the loss, on the other hand. This is what he had to say about Thursday night it was.
It's just a mirror of the first half, but different coloured jerseys. And I thought we were good in the first half and, scored some good tries and competed really hard, and, they just did it better in the second half. It was 12 points of difference, but the last try was us just trying to, we needed to score. So it was, I understand that young half and just tried to do something and pull it back, and that's brave of him, and I encourage it. But there were some decisions that I was amazed at.
Yeah, so another coach questioning some of the decisions. There was one when they did a short kickoff to the left-hand side, and Grant Atkins said it didn't break the plane, which is where the 10-metre line is. Luciano Leilua was on the other side.
It looked like it broke the plane.
Yeah, I thought they got the call wrong.
Yep.
And I can't remember what stage of the game that was and whether it played a significant role in momentum. But
I don't think that alone you could point to that
No.
as the reason they lost.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, plenty of your texts here as well. 611 says, you reckon Nick Sugranis stays in the team as an outside back? Played second row in the junior reps coming through. Good young player, actually.
Ran the ball really strongly.
Yeah, a lot shorter to the ground than your normal centres these days, who are a lot taller and a lot leaner. And but he actually ran really well. I didn't mind him.
Almost a Matt Utai style build.
Yeah, you're right. So I think he will. I think he wasn't that bad, actually, to be quite honest. Plenty of texts also here. Plenty of support when we were talking earlier on about Shane Richardson and his comments during the podcast. 100% agree with Richo. 904 says, the top clubs consistently get more 6 agains and much more 50-50 calls. I have no affiliation with any club, just love footy. We're continually discussing this at work from supporters and all the teams. And we're all saying exactly what Richo said. Well, there is this perception that if you are at the top of the competition, that you are, the reason why you're there is because you are far more disciplined in everything that you do.
It's self-fulfilling, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, you're down the bottom because you're less disciplined, and then so how do you, even when you are more disciplined, how do you get back up to the top?
Exactly. Plenty of texts here also surrounding Manly. There's a lot of despondent text messages here about the Manly Seagulls as well and their loss to the Gold Coast Titans. Let's get to a break here on Saturday League Kickoff. Scotty Sattler, Adrian Pasenko, thank you very much for joining us. We're going to have more after the break. It's a Saturday morning, and thank you very much for joining us on Saturday League Kickoff. Split round, as we know, and Canberra Raiders taking their first bye this week. We have got a text here. I'm trying to find it, actually. We've got so many texts, but I want to get to it about... here we go. Brad from Shayla Park. When was the last time you've seen Canberra Raiders sitting at third favourite to win the comp? Only halfway through the season. I've followed them my entire life, and I'm 45 this year. I was 14 years old when they last won the comp. How good is the current team? Ricky is glued together, and are they going to get better over the next few years? Definitely, Brad. They've got this group of young players coming through. And Ricky's always said, we just need our fans to be patient. They don't need to be patient anymore, the fans, because sitting third, taking their first bye this weekend, one of 3 byes. Now, if you gave them their byes now, they're leading the comp by 2 points.
Yep.
So they're absolutely flying. I think they've got to lose 4 games to miss out on the top 4 if historically the points for the top 4 play out the same way.
They've got a good downhill ski. So basically they've been on the road a lot. They've banked points while they've been travelling, and they're going to have a lot of home games in the next little bit. So, and those young guys you mentioned, Ethan Sanders, Ethan Strange, Owen Paddy, you're only going to get better. Yep,
exactly. Hey, we're going to talk about the 3 games over the weekend, the 2 games tonight. There's also a game tomorrow, which is the Bulldogs up against the Rabbitohs. You're going to tell us a story around Jaden Sullivan as well. What do you think of this idea? Okay, listeners and viewers, Fox League, SEN. This is from 857. Says, long-term maybe, the NRL need to somehow bring in an outsiders team into Origin. Could it cover international players and non-New South Wales, Queensland players' supporters? Don't ask me how it would work, but imagine it's hard for someone to get emotionally invested in Queensland and New South Wales if you don't have any ties to the place.
So this would be the best of the rest.
So it'd be like Super League Tri-Nations.
Tri-Nations.
Yeah.
That's exactly where my head went. Do they get $30,000 a game as well?
Probably not. Hey, let's get into those. Games across the weekend. Knights up against the Roosters. Saturday afternoon, this afternoon, 5:30, McDonald Jones Stadium. Let's kick off with what do we got? We've got they got back wins at home. Of course, they had that good win against Manly last week. They come from behind. They've lost 6 of their last 7 games, the Knights, which is not ideal. Took a little bit of pressure off them last week. The way they won as well. Sam Walker, he was set to play this game, but unfortunately, we heard throughout the week, late in the week, broke his thumb. Anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks.
That's unfortunate.
Perfect timing, but still for the Roosters. I mean, they've got a good halves combination that are doing a great job at the moment.
Yep.
And even when they're losing games, we've said this in previous weeks, they're still playing like a team that should be playing finals. So when you get Sam Walker, does it upset the apple cart, or does it continue to add strength?
I think Sam Walker comes straight back into that side.
Yep.
But just in terms of the New South Wales Cup game, which is the curtain raiser, there's a young guy that's going to make his New South Wales Cup debut for the Knights called Marcus Dacre. So he was identified in the NRL Combine. He's played, I think, 3 Jersey Flegg games. He's scored 4 tries. He's a winger. He's topped the most run meters in a couple of those games. This is a guy who has never played rugby league. He's got a rugby union background, has lived all over the world in Singapore, played on the Sevens rugby tour. Sounds like he's not that far away potentially from, they're looking at him long-term, developing into an NRL player. Can you imagine what a story it would be if a guy like him comes up the ranks and makes an NRL debut for the Newcastle Knights in the next couple of years?
Well, they need it. They need the depth, don't they? They've got some really good young players coming through, just not ready at the moment. So on paper, it's still a fair team. When you're missing players in Origin, the Roosters, you look at their side, it's a really good side on paper. Got some of those really good young players like Blake Steep and those guys that are coming through, but it's a really good team on paper. And to have Tedesco still there over Origin this is where they can strike and get a couple of wins.
What about for Newcastle? Like, they've just come off a win, one where it was lost, it was overshadowed by the Adam O'Brien press conference situation. But now you're bringing in to that team a guy who hasn't been playing for a long time, has been on $800,000, has seemingly been on the outer in Jackson Hastings. And you talk about Lachlan Galvin and does he disrupt the apple cart? What do you think about that decision to bring him in? He hasn't been in the halves.
Yeah.
They're paying a lot of money for him not to play.
He's playing a lot heavier than what he normally plays at as well.
Yeah, and the knock on Jackson has always been not so much what he does on the field, but the way he interacts with his teammates, whether he's a good cultural fit. And you're bringing him in to a time when you're basically trying to salvage your season. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, people on the outside have been calling for Jackson Hastings' inclusion for a number of weeks without knowing what's actually going on within the club. There are reports that he's always had a me mentality as opposed to a we mentality. And that's also with the halves that are playing first grade, if he's playing second grade, the interaction with those guys as well. And what I did find, what I liked from last week is when Ponga scores that try in Golden Point, is that Jackson Hastings, along with those other guys that are on the bench there, and of course he wasn't on the extended bench, but he wasn't in playing gear, but he was celebrating with them. And I like.
And so he should.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I like seeing that. So the only way you can change people's minds and your teammates' minds is being part of a side that wins, and you play a significant role in that as well. And you celebrate with your teammates. You don't celebrate in spite of them, if that makes sense. So for Jackson, everything is about legacy. Whether you're at work, whatever it may be, it's about how you leave a club and what sort of imprint you leave. And he's got this great ability for the back half of this season for Newcastle, and they're not going to re-sign him. They've already said they're not going to re-sign him, but that's fair. But he can finish off the back part of the season. He can be a big reason why the Newcastle Knights continue working their way up the ladder. And for whatever reason, if they find themselves in the last couple of rounds, they're playing off for a potential 8th position, whatever it may be, and he's a big reason because of that, he leaves Newcastle and he leaves his name intact.
He hasn't left many clubs well. Like, he's moved around a lot, and there's always been a stigma to him.
And he's always admitted, as a young guy, he had an air of too much confidence, an air of arrogance about him. You know, a kid coming through school who things came naturally to him. We see a lot of those. Jared Hayne was the same. A lot of things just come naturally to them. And then you get to the mid part of your 20s, and all of a sudden your talent it only gets you so far. It then comes down to your interaction with teammates, the amount you're willing to work off the field as well for each other, the amount you're willing to help the club and your teammates. There's a lot that goes into your career, and the hard work that you do early on in your career, that helps you at the back end of your career.
There are some players who just by virtue of their personality seem to have a limited shelf life. Like James Maloney was extremely successful wherever he went, but he only stayed for a few years, and it's almost too much. And then he moves on and makes someone else get better.
Yep, exactly. Hey, on the Roosters there, one of the Roosters listeners, Joshy says, Sam's broken thumb might be a blessing in disguise. 4 more weeks to rest his knee from full contact. It's a really positive way to look at it. Cowboys up against the Dolphins, 7:35 tonight in Townsville, Queensland Country Bank Stadium. They could get their third consecutive big win here. So the Cows are sitting 8th, the Dolphins sitting 9th. The Dolphins are 1 point behind them on the ladder. 44-8 versus the Doggies, 56-6 versus the Dragons. They're sending a pretty big message to the rest of the comp, aren't they?
They are. So Caden Lars is making his debut in this game.
So is he any relation to...
He's the son of Tom Leroy Lars.
Okay.
And Tom Leroy Lars, of course, had a great career, played for the Storm, Broncos and Raiders. So the dad has played with Jordan McLean, Felice Kafusi and Mark Nichols. Now his son gets to play alongside those same guys in the same game. Yeah. That is like... pretty cool generational stuff, isn't it?
I loved seeing Todd Payton. If you're a Cowboys fan, Canara Cowboy, if you're out there listening and watching, I loved seeing Todd Payton. I loved seeing his blood pressure level go higher last week. Was it last week? Or the week before, when he was hammering his teammate at half time. I loved how animated he was. I loved how passionate he was. He's
normally quite measured, isn't he?
He is. He's highly intelligent. Really good guy. He always calls himself a halfback in a front row's body when he was playing. Hell of a nice guy. Great temperament as well. I love seeing what I saw at half time. Yeah, I don't mind it.
Yeah, he's made some tough calls, hasn't he, too?
Absolutely,
with some of the guys that he's dropped on big money during the season, sent them back into Reggie's to get their form and fitness back and confidence as well. They've responded, like Nanai, for instance.
Yeah, exactly. We've got some texts here also around, Cameron Munster. I think it's going to be great for Cameron Munster as the captaincy. I think it's going to take him to a frightening level for New South Wales. But based on that as well, Scotty Drinkwater takes over the captain. The question is, and the text here, do you think it'll harm Cam Munster's game in Origin? I don't think it will. Like I said, I think it'll take him to another complete level we haven't seen with Munster. Scotty Drinkwater could be the same. It could be that next step in his career where it takes him from a player that loves everything to be working in favour of them, but then teaching him now the maturity of having to think about others and what the game looks like at different stages of the game.
I remember interviewing Cam Munster a few years ago, and it wasn't long after he had that indiscretion, and he was part of the leadership group again at the Storm, and I said, can you see yourself as being captain of the Storm at some point in the future? And he said, that's something I would like to aspire to, as I get older and more experienced. And it was like a blazing headline because at the time you just thought, I can't see this guy being the captain of the Melbourne Storm. He's now the captain of his state. It's like one of the most prestigious jobs in rugby league. But he'll handle it because he's not affected by pressure, nor the situation of the game either. Like if he sees something, he'll chip on the third tackle.
I'll compare it to Craig Gower. When John Lang came to the Penrith Panthers, he said Craig Gower's going to be our captain. And we all went, excuse me? What? Because Gower was this guy that was just so individually brilliant. He was so loyal to his teammates. Amazing defender as well. I've never seen a man endure so much pain for not only himself but the rest of his teammates. The willingness to put himself through so much pain and discomfort to try and get a win. But you never thought of Craig Gower as being a skipper. He just sort of being this renegade player that just played a breakneck speed, red line every time. Cam Munster's a little bit the same. It's the progression and the maturity as their career gets to different points of their career. And when Craig Gower got mentioned as captain, it just took him to another level of his game. Like he didn't miss a minute, 1 second of one game in the year that Panthers won the comp in 2003. And And I think Munster's much the same personality. Looks like Joey. When Joey Many said, "Oh, will Joey be a captain because he's such a great individual player?" But it showed that he just drags people along with him.
Sats, can I ask you, like, I don't know if you recall what there was an industrial dispute, basically with the CBA, where the NRL and the Players Association, they couldn't agree, and in terms of a boycott, in terms of making a real statement to the game, the players decided to boycott the Daly M Awards.
Yeah, it was that year.
And it was that year where Craig Gower, everyone expected him to do it. Is that sort of a sore point, I guess, for being a former teammate of his, that he played so well and never got the recognition and the esteem that comes with being the Daly M Player of the Year?
Do you know, the good part about Craig Gower is he takes a lot of the responsibility of, he was sort of the leader of the club, and when all that was going on, and I was never a Rugby League Players Association, so I've never been a union kind of guy.
Yeah.
I just wanted to play footy. I didn't want to hold the game to ransom, whatever it may be. And back then there was, some plays to try and run out later on the games on a Sunday. Let's not run out at the preferred time. Let's go out 10 minutes later. Let's disrupt the telecast. But Gowie even says it today publicly. He was one of the guys who was saying, we need to stick together as a group, and this is for the betterment of the game. And if it affected him then receiving the Daly M, well,
it's a price he's willing to pay.
It's a price he's willing to pay. But I think now that time has passed, I think everyone agrees that he should be given the Daly M medal as well. Yep. Anyway, Dave Gallop, he pulled the ball over all the players' eyes that year, didn't he? He goes, well, if you're going to boycott it, guess what? We'll cancel it. No one's getting any awards. Says an asterisk. Yeah, exactly. And on Sunday, Rabbitohs up against the Bulldogs, 4:05, Accor Stadium. Now, the Rabbitohs, last two games to the Warriors and Raiders, they've lost. Stephen Crichton, Kurt Mann, Max King, Matty Burton all out with Origin. And also AP, you teased a little bit of a story about Bud Sullivan.
Well, all the talk has been about Lachlan Galvin in the build-up, and it's going to be his first time wearing the number 6 jersey for the Bulldogs. I thought I'd have a bit of a look at the guy who's marking up on him, and Bud Sullivan, who's had a pretty interesting journey in rugby league himself. He was like the next big thing. He's actually a former teammate of Lachlan Galvin's at West Tigers. And Jerome Luai arrives at the club, and all of a sudden he's surplus to requirements. And the club's pretty transparent and said, listen, if you can find another home, because he's on $700,000 per season. Like they can't be paying a guy that much not to play. And so he's a bit lost and in the wilderness. And one of the first people that he calls, and he hasn't got a relationship with him, he just rings Gus Good and says, Gus, can I come and have a chat to you and talk to you about my rugby league and where I am in my career? And he goes, of course, young man, come along. So he comes
no
over.
Real connection with
There's
him
no,
at all.
and he wasn't pitching up to become a Bulldogs player. It wasn't a case of like, I want to try to convince you that I want to come to Belmore. So he turns up, and sitting next to Gus is Cameron Ciraldo. And Gus says, I wanted you to be able to get some feedback from someone, not just me, but someone who's a current NRL head coach
studies the players
at the time, who studies everyone's game and can tell you a little bit about yours. And they sit there and they give him the unvarnished truth, which is you might think that you're working hard, but there are areas in your game, particularly off the field, that you can improve. And he said that, like, I'm a hard trainer, but during the off-season I let myself go a little bit, I put some weight on. I'm not a professional 24/7. And the things that he said really resonated with him, and as a result, he ends up playing for Wayne Bennett on loan. He's played 12 games already this year. He actually comes up against the Canterbury Bulldogs. So in a sort of bizarre sort of way, he can haunt Cameron Ciraldo and feel good, but they still wanted to give him the time to improve his game, and hopefully he makes the best of it.
Love it. Great storyline. Hey, if you haven't downloaded the SEN app, you can, wherever you get your apps from. And also, thanks also to Wing House for our great support of the show. Let's get to a break, and after that, we're going to wrap it all up. Yeah, welcome back to the show. That's it for another 2 hours. Thank you very much for our Fox League viewers and our SEN listeners across the entire network. It's been an action-packed couple of hours. AP, some of the text messages I want to get to. Hey, guys, just love the show so much. You guys are great, from Lundy. That's very facetious, Lundy. We love your text messages. He's always facetious. He is. Fans, Raiders fan guys, do you think Ethan Strange is going better than Galvin? Yeah, I think he is. Consistently, absolutely, I think he is. And also, big game next Thursday night as well, after Origin. they've placed these games really well, the schedule. Under 19 State of Origin, next Thursday night, you can see that all live on KO as well. And Hamasi Makasini. Now, Tigers fans, something you get excited about. He's a Newington College boy, 17 years of age, playing in the centres for the New South Wales team. He's only 17-year-old, and he's re-signed with the Tigers. He could have gone to rugby.
Yep.
Stayed solid with the Tigers, so good news from the Tigers. There also some
good players there.
Some very good players.
So,
you're saying 85% of the players go on and play NRL.
Yeah. So Toby Rodwell, we get to have a look at him. Mitchell Woods, who played his first game in New South Wales
He's
Cup.
at the Bulldogs, yeah.
He's at the Bulldogs. You talk about the Bulldogs. There's a real Bulldogs connection there on the coaching staff. So Josh Jackson, who's also their flag coach. So he's got everyone on his staff has got some sort of Bulldogs DNA. So whether it's Josh Reynolds, Dale Finucane. Who else has he got? He's got a couple of others as well. So lots of, which is really Trent Hodkinson is another one.
Great recruiting tool for
it's
the Bulldogs.
It's a great recruiting tool. Josh Jackson's such a good bloke.
Yep.
Like, people want to play for him. People forget, like, he's also very selfless. Like, at the back end of his career, he had all these injuries, was struggling with them, and he actually tried to take a salary cap reduction. You know, he wanted to give back some of his wage because he wasn't playing as well as he thought he should be.
Yep.
So, great guy. They'll love playing for him. And as you said, good recruiting tool for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, great stuff. Hey, thank you very much to Kieran Foran for joining us. Shaun Timmins, we hope he's okay. He's in hospital after a double knee replacement. And also thank you very much to you, the listeners and the viewers for Fox League and SEN. Much appreciated, all your text messages. And we're going to finish off because we go global. Morning, boys, watching whilst eating my dinner here in Squamish, Canada. Can I get a shout out to the Whistler Wolves Rugby League Club? Round 2 tomorrow against the Vancouver Dragons. A win will see us stay at the top of the ladder. Blake from Squamish. Thank you, Blake. And thank you everyone else as well. We're going to hand the keys across to the boys at crunch time. Shawnee Omerod and Timmy Manor, the Lion of Lebanon as well. Have a great weekend of Rugby League. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next Saturday.